Yeah, hi, good morning everyone. I'm sharing my screen. Is my screen is visible for everyone? I will check it live also. Okay. So last session we discussed about the variables and data types. Variables and data types. Last session we discussed about the variables and data types. Basically, variables are many. What does it mean by variables? Variables which is used to store the data. Which is used to store the data. Hmm. And data types which is used to specify the data which is used to specify the data. Okay, so today we'll discuss about the Java identifiers. So last session we discussed about the variables and data types. So like under the data types we'll be having again two classifications. One is the predefined data types which will hold only one value. Those are like int. So under the we'll be having the sections like integer sections, byte, long, short. So under the decimal section, we'll be having the float, double. Under the char section, we'll be having the char. Under the boolean section, we'll be having the boolean. And those are predefined data types. And we'll be having second category is reference data types, or you can say user defined data types. Those are like class, string, arrays. These are all are comes under the reference data types, or you can say user defined data types. With the help of those, we can store multiple values. But with the help of primitive data types, we can able to store only one value. Only one value. So today we'll discuss about the identifiers, Java identifiers. In Java identifiers, all the components in the Java programs, all the components required names, required names, required names. The names used for class, interfaces, and I would say methods, variables, variables, and we'll be having the constants also. Constants, constants. So basically, what does it mean by identifiers? Identifiers meaning in Java program, all the components required names. All the components required names. The names is used for class, interface, methods, variables, and constants. Variables and constants. So while writing the like while declaring the naming conventions for all the components in Java, we need to follow some rules. We need to follow some rules. Okay, what are the rules we need to follow? The first rule is rule number one. Rule number one, with allowed characters. With allowed characters. What are the allowed characters? We'll discuss one by one. The allowed characters should be first A to Z. A to Z, meaning all the alphabetical order from A to Z, you can take with lowercase. And second one, all in uppercase. And third thing, from numbers 0 to 9. 0 to, I would say 0 to 9. And you shouldn't use special characters. You can use only one special character, that is the dollar. That is the dollar. And underscore. Underscore. This is the underscore. Within the bracket, I can write the underscore. This is the underscore. Underscore. So with the help of these characters only, you can give the naming conventions. You can give the naming conventions. First one is the A to Z. All characters should be in the lower case. Second one is the A to Z. All characters should be in the uppercase. And second thing is numbers. You can use numbers also. And you don't use the special characters. Only allowed special character is the dollar and underscore and underscore. So these, with the help of these characters only, you can give the naming convention. This is the rule number one. Rule number one. For example, this is the name. If I write like this, This is valid or invalid? This is valid or invalid? So this in between A to Z characters. So this is valid. This is valid. And for example, if I write like this, name, if I write like this is valid or invalid? It is invalid. Why? Because hash is uh, uh, that is the special character. At the time of naming convention, you shouldn't use the hash special character. For example, if I write like this, at the rate name, this is valid or invalid? Invalid. Why? Because at the rate also, now this is also special character. We shouldn't use at the time of naming convention. At the time of naming convention. So this much is clear. First one, with allowed characters. The character should be A to Z with all the lowercase, and the second is A to Z all in uppercase, and 0 to 9 with numbers, special character with dollar and underscore. With the help of these only, we can able to give the naming convention for all the Java components, for all the Java components. That is the rule number one. And we'll see rule number two. Rule number two. Rule number two is the naming convention. We shouldn't start with. We cannot start with. We cannot start with integers. We can say digits. We cannot start with digits. We cannot start with digits. For example, I am saying write like this. If I write like this, name, this is valid or invalid? This is valid or invalid? Invalid. Why? Because the rule number two is we cannot start with digits. Digits meaning 0 to 9. 0 to 9. At the time of given naming convention for any like class or anything, so we shouldn't start with the digits. We shouldn't start with this. So if I start with the digits, this is invalid. This is invalid. This is invalid. For example, if I write like this, 5, this is valid or invalid? This one is valid. Why? Because at the starting step, we shouldn't start with the digit, but at the end, you can start with the numbers. At the end, you can start with the digit. You can write like this. That is okay, but you shouldn't write like this. Any name we cannot start with digit. That is the rule number two. That is the rule number two. That is the rule number two. Next thing, this one is clear.
Yeah.
Rule number three is no spaces. No spaces between the words. No spaces between the words. I would say no spaces between the words. For example, I am writing like this. I want to mention like int phone pay bill. Phone bill. Phone pay bill. For example, my phone cost is like this. If I mention, I would say 40,000. 40,000. So if I mention like this one is valid or invalid? Invalid. Why? Because if the name contains multiple words, you shouldn't use the spaces. You shouldn't use the spaces. This one is the invalid. This one is the invalid. And next thing is, if I write like this, phone pay underscore bill 40,000. This one is the valid. This one is the valid. So if the variable name or anything, it will have the multiple words. It will have the multiple words. We should use the underscore. We should use the underscore. You should use the underscore. So like no need to, I would say, uh, without spaces, we can give the naming conventions. Without spaces, we can give the naming conventions. Without spaces, we can give the naming conventions. So this much is clear. The first rule is with allowed characters only, and second rule is we cannot start with the digits, and third rule is no spaces between the words. no spaces between the words, no spaces between the words. Clear? This much is clear. And fourth rule, rule number 4, we cannot use the keywords. We cannot use the keywords. We'll see, we'll be having keywords are the predefined words. The words has its own meaning. At the time of naming conventions, we shouldn't use the keywords. For example, if I write like this, the keywords will be having. For example, if I write like this, if name, is it valid? No. Why? Because if is the predefined keyword. Predefined keyword. So at the time of naming conventions, we shouldn't use the keywords as well. We shouldn't use the keywords as well. So if I write like this is the invalid. This is the invalid. So at the time of naming convention, we shouldn't use the keywords. We shouldn't use the keywords. So we'll see what does it mean by keywords. We'll see what does it mean by keywords. So these are the rules while writing like identifiers we need to follow. The first rule is we can write with the allowed characters only. We can write with the allowed characters only. The second rule is we cannot start with the digits. We cannot start with the digits like from digits like 0 to 9 we cannot start with the digits. If I write like this, that one is the invalid. If I write like this, that is the valid. And the no spaces between the words, no spaces between the words. For example, if I write like this, no, that is not recommended. That is invalid. So we need to use underscore in between the words. We need to use underscore in between the words. And fourth rule is we cannot use the keywords. Keywords meaning already defined words. So at the time of naming convention, you shouldn't use the keywords. You shouldn't use the keywords. Now, like what does it mean by keywords? Keywords are the predefined words. So the words which will have already its functionality. Already which functionality. So these are the predefined words. Yeah. So these are predefined words which will have its functionality, its own functionality. So it will have the sections like I will categorize the sections. So first one is the reserved words. You can say reserved words. Reserved words. So in the reserved word section, we'll be having two categories. So first one is words and second one is the characters. I can write like this. This is the keywords, and we'll be having the resolved literals. Reserved literals, and so under the keywords, we'll try to understood under the literals. We'll be having the values are like true, boolean, null. These are comes under the literals category. True, and I would say boolean, false, and null. So these are comes under the literals category. So under the keywords, again, it is divided into two sections. That is, again, it is divided into two sections. So the two sections are like used words, unused words. So we'll try to write that one. used words and so used words totally will be having 48. Total keywords are 50. Here the section is 50 and total is 53 actually. Total 53 keywords will be having and 50 is comes under the keywords category and these three are literals category. These three are literals category. These three are literals category. So under the keyword section will be having used words and unused words and used words. So unused words. So under the used words section will be having 48. 48 words will be there. 48. And here it will be having two two words. Two words. Those two are go to and const. Const. These are unused because if in any case we will use these two words, we are facing many issues. We are facing many issues. So that's why the Java people they don't use these two words. These two words, I would say, one is the go to, second one is the constant. Second one is the constant. So I will write here. Second one is the const. Why? Because the people they are not using these two words. If any program if they use these two words, they are facing many issues. They are facing many issues. So that's why the people whoever is already working the JDK people, these two words nobody is using. Nobody is using. So we are most of them are using these 48 words. These 48 words. So these 48 words also we can it will be having different sections. Different sections like the sections are like the first one I would say we can try to understand section wise. The first one under the data types category, what are the keywords will be having. So under the data types category, the first one under the decimal category, byte is the one byte, I would say short, next int, long, float, double, next char and boolean. So these are comes under the data types category. These all are predefined keywords. Predefined keywords. Okay. These all are predefined keywords. So last session we discussed about the data types. So from next session we'll discuss about the control statements. So under the control statements, what are the I would say keywords will be there. So we can try to understand control statements. Under the control statements category, we'll be having the keywords are like first one is the if and the second one is the else. Second one is the else and third one is the while. 10 return continue.